Hi, welcome to Kenyaddacreates. I'm Kenyatta and welcome to my channel. Today is a book wrap up for April 2022. All the books I've read in April and one acquisition. So this video I decided to do separate from my yarning videos. Some people may not want to watch book related videos and some people may. So I decided to do this different and separate it. So the first book I finished in April was The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. I love this book. Let me just tell you. This book was the first book I read by Simone St. James. No, I take that back. Broken Girls was. This is the second book. Man, this book was so good. Going through the different timelines, there is a, what's her name? What is her name? I remember the suspect's name, but I don't remember the girl's name. Shay. Okay, so Shay is a blogger. She due to an incident that happened when she was younger, she had been obsessed with true crime cases. So she created a blog called The Book of Cold Cases. And so she's obsessed with it. So, but she's a receptionist during the day, but she's a blogger at night. So at her reception job, a lady comes in and she recognizes her. And she couldn't figure out at first who she was, but then she heard the lady's name was Beth Greer, and she knew that she was a suspect in 1977 in in two murders of two men. And so she follows her, get up the nerve to ask her for an interview. And Beth Greer, who has never agreed to be interviewed by anybody, agrees to the interview. So this story jumps from timeline to timeline, going from when Beth was accused of being the killer and during the current time where Shay is interviewing her. So Shay is like, gotta figure out, is she interviewing a murderer or is she innocent? And then there's a paranormal aspect to the book because things are moving around in Beth Greer's house without nobody there. This book is just really good. I recommend this book to anybody who loves true crime, who loves paranormal aspects of a story. This book is great. The next book I've read was The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. Again, yes, the book is great. It when did that happen? In 1982. Carly's auntie went missing from the Sundown Motel. So in 2017, Carly goes to work for the Sundown Motel because she wants to find out what happened to her aunt. So this jumps from timeline to timeline of who done it, trying to figure out, talking to people, the suspects, and the paranormal activities that took place during the time her aunt worked there are still going on today. So they're trying to figure out what really happened to her aunt. Did she go missing? Is she dead? What does these ghosts have to do with it? I mean, this was a really great book too. I love the way she writes. The Broken Girls was set in two timelines as well. She has other books that she's The Haunting of Maddie Clare, An Inquiry into Love and Death, Silence for the Dead, The Other Side of Midnight, and The Lost Among the Living, and The Broken Girls. I haven't read anything else but The Broken Girls and these two books, but I love her writing. And yes. Now, this was a book that was damaged that came from Book of the Month. They did send me a replacement. It's in my mailbox right now, but I'm not going down to the mailbox to get it yet. So, but they did send me another copy of this, so I'm going to give this one to my son. But I do recommend this book. This is a great book. I love it so much. The next book I read was Razor Blade Tears by S.A. Cosby. This book was very violent. Very violent. I loved it. It's about two men whose sons were gay, and they didn't really agree with their lifestyle. Their sons was married, but they got murdered. And after they got murdered, they started feeling guilty and wanted to want revenge for their son's death. So they seek out revenge and try to figure out who killed their sons. And so this is just one of those going down the rabbit hole of finding out who killed their sons, and they're trying to get retribution and trying to make things, what's the word, trying to do better for their sons than they did when they was alive. Because like I said, their sons were gay. It was they were in an interracial relationship, and they just didn't approve of their relationship, and so it caused them to have a lot of problems with the relationship with their kids. So after their deaths, they really stepped up and went out for revenge. And so this is what this is about, Razor Blade Tears. And it was a good book. It's just violent. So if you don't like violence, you won't like that book. But it's very violent. Like a Sister by Kelly Gare is the next book I read. This was a good book as well. Oh my goodness. So what's her name? I can't remember. Lena. Lena's sister Desiree was killed the night of her birthday party. And actually with the next morning, like early morning. And she was found dead in a park with a needle stuck in her arm. But Desiree doesn't believe that, Lena doesn't believe that Desiree killed herself from an overdose. She just doesn't believe that. And so she goes down the rabbit hole of trying to find the answer she needs to discover what really happened to her sister, because they're just things that just doesn't make sense. And I really love this book. It's definitely a book that I would reread, just like the Simone St. James books. This was a really great story, and it's definitely a book I would recommend as well. The next book I read was by Will Smith and Mark Manson. This was a really good book. I was very, very surprised at how good this book is. After reading and getting to know Will, as he tells about himself, I'm not really surprised by what he did at the Oscars. I'm not really surprised at all. He's a very flawed human being. He talks about his childhood. He talks about his relationships, his marriages, his career. And he just lets you know that, look, I'm human, I'm flawed. And this was written before that even happened. So this is a really great book. I really recommend it. If you're a fan of Will Smith, or just interested in getting to know who this man is who acted a fool at the Oscars, I would say get this book, because it really lets you dive in and really get to know who this man is. And after reading it, you really won't be surprised that he did what he did. Because he admits he's a flawed human being, and he lets you know that in this book. So this was a really good book. I recommend this book as well. The next book I read was A Child Called It by Dave Pelzer, One Child's Courage to Survive. Now this story is about Dave's life. He was abused as a child. Now I thought I was abused, so I read this book. I had a very traumatic childhood, but it was nothing compared to what this child went through. There is 2 other books in a series about, let's see, he said this book is, hold on. He says that the ages, this book is based on his life from 4 to 12. The next book is based on his life from 12 to 18. And then the next book is when he's grown up, I believe. But this book is heart-wrenching. You think you went through something until you read somebody else's story. The things that this child went through was so terrible, done by his own mother. I heard it was a movie, but I've never seen it. I do want to get the other books because it really touched my heart. I got this from the library. So yeah. If you are sensitive to child abuse, this is not a book for you. But if you're interested in hearing how a child survived through child abuse, this is a great book. Um, I don't know if I recommend it or not because it's not for everybody. So, The Child Called It. The next book I read was The Heart Principle by Helen Hoang. This was a 3-part series. I read the first book, The Kish Quotient, and the second book, The Bride Test. And this is The Heart Principle. And I loved it just like I loved the other two. Now, what is her name? I never can remember their names. Anna and Quan. Anna is in therapy. She's a violinist, and she is trying to be able to play the violin again. So she's in therapy, trying to figure out what does she need to do to get the confidence back, to be able to finish some notes, a song, because she's just stumped. And in the midst of that, she goes online and meets Quan. Now, her and Quan start out wanting just a one-night stand, but of course, it's in the whole book that one-night stand turns into something more. And this is about the relationship and the family drama between Anna's life, because her father his father is in bed, and he's bedridden, and he's very ill. She has to go take care of her family, so her family is expecting her to marry another man, her ex, I forgot about that part. That started off as she was in a relationship with someone who wanted an open relationship. And it was his idea to start dating other people. That's why she got online. I forgot that part. And so, that her going online, she met Quan. And so, after she's involved with Quan, the ex comes back, but he doesn't know he's her ex. And so, she has to decide what she really wants, who she really wants, and yeah. So, it gets kind of dicey. So, yeah, I love that book. The next book I read was The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. Now, this book, I wasn't sure how I was going to like it because it was historical fiction. I don't like all historical fiction. I read some that I didn't like, and I read some that I have liked. But I love this book. It goes between two timelines of 200 years apart. And the apothecary was set up originally to help heal women, but due to circumstances and heartbreak, the daughter of the mother who started it decided she was going to help women poison men who has betrayed them. Well, 200 years later, what is her name? Because of course I don't know it. Nella. Is that Nella? No, Caroline. Nella is the apothecary. Caroline, being betrayed by her husband, she goes to London on a trip that was supposed to be her anniversary. She does something called mudlarking and finds an empty apothecary bottle. And so she goes down this rabbit hole to try to find secrets to this apothecary bottle. And she discovers the story of Nella, who is the apothecary from 200 years earlier who ran it. And so it just dives into like the story of why Nella ran the apothecary the way she did, why she helped these women murder all these men who betrayed them. And Caroline is investigating the apothecary in current day, trying to figure out who this person was who ran the apothecary and try to uncover the secrets of this apothecary. And it's just so good. I mean, I was quite surprised how fast I read through this book, being in historical fiction, because historical fiction sometimes can be boring and But this wasn't. This was not at all. Not all historical fictions are boring, but some are to me. This one was really good and fast paced, and I loved every minute of it. So I recommend that book. And then the last book I read this month in April is, well, it's not the last book I read because I am currently reading one, but this is the last book I finished. Ties That Tether by Jane Igaro. Beautiful cover. Look at that. So beautiful. This is about Aziri. Aziri had promised her father on her deathbed that she would marry a Nigerian man. But she was brought to Canada after her father's death. And so she was raised in Canada from, I think, the age 12. Yeah, 12 years old. So she has grown up in the culture of a Canadian. So she's meeting other people besides Nigerian. And so one night, she has a one-night stand with the man, and this man is in town for an interview. Well, comes to find out, after a couple months, after this one-night stand happens, this man walks into Aziri's company, and he's a new hire. So she has to deal with the fact that this one-night stand is at her job. And she is very attracted to him, and he's still attracted to her. And she has to go through, what is she going to do? Is she going to hold up the promise she made to her dying father and make her mother proud and marry a Nigerian man? Or is she going to follow her heart and marry this man who was originally just supposed to be a one-night stand? You know, it's very hard for her, you know, because at some point, if she chooses one, she's choosing one over her family. And if she chooses her family, she's losing she's losing someone great. So it's, you know, family drama, love. It's a really great story. I loved it. So I would recommend this one as well. Ties That Tether by Jane Igaro. So yeah, that is all the books I read. And like I said, I got one acquisition. I got from Amazon. And this book is Incubus Dreams by Laura K. Hamilton. Next to Harry Potter, this is my favorite series. This is about Anita Blake, the Vampire Hunter. This book is, let's see, one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is the 12th book in the series. I used to have all these books before a devastating, tragic day where I lost all my books. So I'm getting them back and rereading the series. And I get them in the mass market paperback edition because that's the way it was introduced to me, and I love reading these like this. So this is a story about Anita Blake, the Vampire Hunter, where she's also a oh my goodness, what is the word? It starts with an N. Necromancer. She has control over the dead. In her daytime job, she raises the dead for people who wants to hear, like for courts. We need to know who killed you. We need to know your last will and rights. We need to know this. So she raised the dead long enough to get the answers that the cops need, or the lawyers need, or the judge needs, or whatsoever. But she's also a vampire hunter. But she falls in love with the vampire. So it gets really dicey, and it's not for the faint of heart. It's very R-rated and above. It's very, very above, but it's very good. I love this series. It's Buffy the Vampire Slayer for adults. Yes, and I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer. This is for adults. So yeah, I recommend this series if you're interested. If you're brave enough to delve into the sexual lives, because it's very sexual, of Anita Blake and the were animals, because there's a lot of were animals in this series. Were rats, were swans, werewolves. It's a lot. But it's a good series. So that is all. That is all the books that I have read in the month of April 2022. So I thank you for taking the time to watch. Give this video a like, comment, rate, and subscribe. But don't forget to click the notification bell to be notified whenever I post another video. And I will see you in another video. Thanks. Bye.